Good evening, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the BBC, the Bordweall Broadcasting Company. Today we have as our guest Renegade, who seems to be very colourful today. How you doing, Renegade?
I am here. I am great, and I guess I am colorful today. I was just
What the heck is that on your head?
I told you these horns that I was messing around, and I found my cosplay horns, and I was like, I'm putting these on. But I've had
Very
them on the
cool.
last hour.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, no, do a full head down so we can get to see the full horns.
Yeah.
There we go. Very cool.
A little bit better than the flowers I glued into my headset that last time.
Awesome stuff. Muslim is, I guess, joining us in the chat here. He's not actually a guest on the show tonight because his daughter made it to All-Star Basketball, and they have a rematch tonight. So he's enjoying that, and we certainly wish his daughter great luck and much success, hopefully, in the game, and that they win and move on to the next stage of the thing there. So. Let's see. Alex, if you can put up the first image that has got the 11 thread. Pickings have been slim these last 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, but we do have a show for you. What we're putting up right now is actually kind of like a little thing of the posts that have been. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my Twitch screen has kind of like frozen, so I don't know what's going on with that. If the image is up, you can actually see that in the time we've had in just a couple of weeks, there's actually been just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 14 threads, and actually not even that because the last stream was on the 20th or so, or the 18th. In fact, it's even showing there 18th. So there's only been about 8 threads, and of that kind of like I think 2 of them are old ones that got revived. So it seems that kind of like participation even by the community is dropping off a little bit at the moment. Alex, if you can show the recent posts thread, that would be cool as well.
We're testing you.
Yeah, can somebody type something at least in chat? Let me see if
chat's definitely talking. They're judging my board games.
I see your We Have Small World and some expansions.
They haven't said anything since then. I think they've all.
There it is. Okay, thank you, Monkey Fuzz. At least that part's working. It looks like my screen part is locked. I don't know why, but
I had to hit play.
Yeah, no, it's on play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. Oh, there we go. Okay, I refreshed it and it's working. Cool. So even on the recent threads, you can see that, if you scroll down, and I don't know how many threads recent posts there are, it's like maybe 12 recent posts. But they're, they go right now back all the way back to Tuesday, February the 25th, which is 8 days ago. And it used to be, it's sad to see this because there was a time where we were having to bump a thread literally every hour, to try and keep it on the recent posts thing, back when we were all having those, recruitment fights and you wanted your recruitment post to kind of like stay current on the recent post threads and everything like that and all that excitement going on. So as I say, we've scraped through stuff and put some stuff together for you. We got, I think, a funny meme that's going to be coming through, etc. Let's look at first of all at there is one other piece to share on that. There was one thread that was revived, and that was Caspian's State of Elyria thread from last year. In fact, if you can put the conclusion of that one up for us, please, Alex. And what that thread was, obviously, it was the State of Elyria last year, and Caspian telling us stuff, and this was his whole conclusion. He'd gone about, how well they were coming along in development, etc., etc. What's interesting about this is that This thread was actually on the recent posts for a little while today, and then the mods, I don't know who, but the mods deleted the last post, so it no longer showed up on the recent post thread. And that's kind of curious to see because they normally wouldn't do that. And it was a very complimentary post saying, hey, the person likes the way it's being developed and everything, is looking forward to the game, etc., etc. But perhaps they didn't want this, you know, brought back into the public eye that, where it says that, we prepare you for what comes next. We've got the citizen coming. There's going to be the let me see here. What did he say here? Recruitment, citizen, recruitment fair, personas, etc. But none of that will prepare for you for what comes right after release 0.5.0. And that was meant to be Alpha 1. And that was meant to be last summer. So the winds of favor are beginning to blow in our direction. The tides are rising, and there's an electricity that's not yet visible, but it's just beginning to raise the hairs on the back of your neck. I'm sorry, but this is kind of like reminds me of the bread baking in the oven during the domain and settlement selection comment. But he says, it's it is. That's what I said, Baldwin. It's kind of like it is like the bread rising thing, and this seems to be a thing that a mode of writing, for want of a better way, that Caspian enjoys for hyping stuff. But nothing, unfortunately, has actually happened yet. So we're waiting on that. We did get you can put up the site maintenance announcement if you can, Alex. There was the site maintenance announcement, where it says, the Chronicles of Elyria website will be going down for maintenance. There was a lot of kind of like hype and buzz around this for a little while. And I'm glad that they didn't say what it was about, to be quite honest. People saying, well, what's it about? They shouldn't be putting stuff out. There should be, they should do their update, check it internally, make sure it's working, and then let us know why it went down for maintenance once they know it's working. Because if they said, oh, it's going down for Settlers of Elyria, and they found another bug, it's just another kind of like crap thing for us, right? So I'm not opposed to them not having said why. So I'm kind of cool with that. Let's see.
Was it really leaks? Because that's what there's people saying was there were
I don't
leaks.
know if it's leaks or not. What I do know is there was on the COE Discord, which I don't pay much attention to. I just don't have the bandwidth to, although even that's kind of quiet at the moment. There were people in the Settlers of Elyria channel on Discord discussing whether or not the maintenance was Settlers of Elyria related, and they were reprimanded by a mod.
Oh yeah, this was the off-topic
for
topic.
for talking about that's off topic. You can't talk about that. And it's like we're talking about whether the maintenance went down for Settlers of Elyria. How's not that relevant to the Settlers of Elyria channel? But I can only shake my head now and kind of like it's whatever. I would imagine that with as subdued as kind of like our interaction as a community is right now, whether it's on the forums or the official Discord, that they would actually try and muffle conversation that's related to Settlers of Elyria. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Renegade? And guys, what are your thoughts in the chat on that? It seemed weird to me, was all.
It's like the whole thing in general has they've decided they're just going to go quiet and kind of bring in this like form of hibernation, let everybody come down from the fever we've been on for the last 5 years and just calm down. And, we haven't had the communication, which to me very much reads like, we've been screaming about them with false information, too much information, like, hey, stop saying this when you're going to do that, where they've just kind of been like, okay, we'll just take a break. We won't say anything. And maybe they're just trying to like reset the whole community by silence. I'm not sure if
It
I.
it could be, but it would be, it kind of like, I guess it goes back to this whole, my feeling that, we don't have transparency, and it would be just nice to say, hey guys, we're doing a reset. Give us 8 weeks. We want to get caught up with stuff. We want to have stuff actually ready, and then announce that it's ready. And so that means there's going to be this kind of like little bit of a quiet time. But a lot of people are kind of like, they've got the feeling they're being ghosted or something at
Yeah,
the moment.
that's definitely
And
a feeling.
yeah, and it's, we'll see. We'll see how it works out. Again, I do believe that we get to see something significant, even if it's kind of like, for the Alpha One backers or something like that. I do believe we get to see something that's, I would say, relatively significant compared to what they've been showing us so far within the next 30 to 60 days. So we'll see if that
Soon.
comes out. But that's soon, yeah. That's in that soon thing, the same as the Settlers of Elyria update that we're now into March, and I mean we're going to be close on another 4 months for them to fix a
Yeah.
glitch on a website thing, and it's,
Yeah.
people are going, holy shit. Not that it's related, website programming isn't related to game programming,
It's not.
but generally speaking, people think it's easier to build a website than to develop an MMO. And if they can't do the website thing, how the fuck are they going to do the MMO kind of thing? That's the the logical train of thought on that, right? But
And
yeah,
it definitely it feels like they are shell shocked from the abuse of every time they communicate with us, and we want them to be. It's like apologizing and then them saying, "Don't say sorry, be better," and then you say sorry again.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think it doesn't help that basically the attitude has been that, you know, that the community is at fault here, you know. And there have been several comments from Caspian in that regard, and I find that a little disappointing, and that's putting it kind of like in a very polite way. That they've basically set the expectations for us and let us down. And the good news is they come out with something, and if they come out with something significant, I think we get out of this kind of like, oh, nothing's happening, nothing's going on, and I hope that we're all able to shake it off, the studio and us alike. But it's it's
It
whatever.
might also be a general gaming law because I know there's definitely a sort of gaming law now. People wait for new titles right now, at least in the sandbox survival genre. Not sure about other
Yes,
genres, but there's a lull
yeah,
right
but
now.
but but we haven't had this lull every year, you know.
No, we haven't. So for COE, it's definitely a different change, but it could also be the community in general, which I think is a lot of sandbox survival players, could also be influenced by that lull in the the new things in the gaming genre right now. So it could be like everybody's like reluctant, doesn't want to invest in anything, kind of worn down, and everybody's waiting for something new. And
Yeah,
so it feels very quiet to all of us. And then when we do get stuff,
yeah,
we get to like, oh, okay, that's it.
yeah. Freaking Unfettered made a thing. Great bit. I wasn't aware about the Caspian ghosted on his level grind online game. Um, I wasn't aware of that stuff. So yeah, Unfettered joked about Bannerlord releasing before this, but wow, there was in one of our channels. I think it was Noslin made a joke. I've forgotten what it was like, but it was about me. We were joking about my age, right? And I'm in my early
Oh,
60s, and that we would like this aging concept to actually apply in game, where your children inherit, your next persona, but that for me it might be that my kid, I never get to see the game, and that my kids actually inherit. My kid inherits the game, and And Noslin made a joke saying, there was like, I was walking by a wishing well, and I made a wish, and I said that I would like to have a huge, awesome flying dragon. And the voice comes out from the well and says, "Look, I can grant you one wish, but please make it realistic." And so, I reply and I say, "Wow, hey, I would like to see COE release before I die." And this deep booming voice replies back from the depths of the well saying, "What color would you like your dragon to be?"
Oh God. We rag so bad, but like, I just
Yeah,
we want to see
exactly.
test.
So, without further ado, let's move on to your section of the stream here, Renegade.
We're
Renegade
gonna
is going to go over the lore
lore
shiny
piece.
that was put out. And I would mention that we didn't get a shiny the week before.
We
That week
didn't.
there was no excuse or there wasn't anything said. It didn't appear. So we kind of like, oh hey Kit, great to see you in here. And Renegade's going to go over that piece of lore. I have to say and preempt this that I did not read that shiny. I am
That's
not a
okay.
lore person. I don't particularly care for lore personally. But that said, I support it highly, and I'm glad to see that they did a shiny on lore. I know everybody wants to see kind of like, the latest and greatest game mechanics and everything, but this is a part of what shinies are about. And for people that love lore, I've had nothing but great, feedback from them saying, "Oh wow, that was really cool." We got to hear about the ships that are going to have multi decks, etc., which we'll get into perhaps a little bit later. Renegade, go ahead, because
Okay.
I just
You
ramble on.
just keep rambling. So, for those who didn't read the lore piece, it was a piece about a Naren boy who sees this weird girl and he's like, I love her. And so he does everything he can to try to impress her and get her attention, and he fails miserably a bunch. And then he hears about this weird event called the trials, and he's like, I'm gonna go do the trials and I'm gonna win, and then she'll definitely love me, in typical like 16-year-old fashion of like, I can win affection by winning this event. So he gets on a boat and he goes with all these weird young adults to go do the trials, which he spends like, it's probably about 2 weeks in the story, just with the weird in their culture and learning about them and practicing. And this trial turns out to be this sort of parkour event. Just it's run ropes, where they showed us like pictures of the pre Elyria client with basically parkour things. And then he goes through these trials, he gets declared a victor, and he comes back to find the girl. And apparently, she's now an adult, and he can't even recognize her from any other word, and he doesn't know anything about her. And then he's like, his friend says, "So, what did you win by being the winner, the victor?" And he's like, "I don't actually know." And that's kind of where the piece ends. So it was interesting. There was a lot of detail in it about weird culture, about just sort of COE little things in general. And then they had this parkour bit that was kind of put in the middle. And I kind of feel like the pictures and the lore piece kind of detracted from each other by trying to put them together. So they put them together. So it's like, oh, look, parkour and story, but they didn't add to one another so much as kind of distract. So like we could have focused more on the cultural bit if we still stuck with the story, or saw more pictures if we were looking at the pre-Elyria client. But either way, so what was really weird about this was it touches on weird culture, which from the perspective of the Naren boy, it's very foreign, very obtuse. He doesn't know a lot about it, and he doesn't really know a lot about the girl. I mean, it takes him a couple like months of seeing her and inquiring after her to even figure out her name, only to find out at the very end she became an adult and she gave up her name, which is weird tradition, and so he just couldn't find her. And then it was like, I guess, okay. um what was interesting about it is we know Caspian is a really big Wheel of Time fan, And the Weird draw pretty heavily on a group of people in the Wheel of Time series called the Aiel, which is this cloistered cultural group that has very different practices from the outside, including everything from something called the trials to the red armbands that he wears. So there's a lot of really heavy influence on this, and I thought it was really kind of cool to very clearly see these influences. And I don't know if anybody knew that that's what was in there, that it's very influenced by Wheel of Time as well as perhaps Dune, but that might just be like the Fremen's influence on the Weird as a culture in general. So it was an interesting lore piece. I feel like we could have focused more on the lore and less on the parkour in the writing. I appreciated reading it. I felt like I was reading a part of Wheel of Time though. But so that was my thought on the lore piece. D. I liked it. Could have been better. But
Gotcha.
like concept art, I think would have fit that better than necessarily like pre-Elyria client pictures.
Do you feel, and the couple of comments have been made, in the chat there. Do you feel kind of like they're scraping the barrel and just cobbling stuff together to just to kind of like fill gaps of not communicating with us? What are your thoughts on that? And what to the viewers, what are your guys' thoughts on that as well? Those of you that read it.
It was very strange why we were getting something that's like the kind of thing that you would read about in the game in a book, or maybe see in the mannerisms of the characters in the game where like Weird use we instead of I. But it was odd. Like, it's cool to learn more about the cultures. I love it. But that's design phase of a project. That's very early phase of a project. That's not build. So it's not where we are supposed to be in this project, which is in the build phase, where we're done designing, we're done scoping it out, we are building what we decided we were making. And this is much earlier in the process, so it's a throwback, which I loved all of the lore pieces early on because they were very in depth. It was very well thought out, the cultures and stuff like that. But this was it, and then it ends in such a way where it's like, well, that was a very weird and didn't progress me anywhere and didn't tell me anything. And I don't even know what the trials are for, and neither did the character. So it was kind of a gotcha on Weird culture, like, am I supposed to learn something from this, or am I just supposed to take away that the Weird are weird? that was my, I came away from the story and was like, I feel like we didn't end this story. There was no resolution to a very traditional hero's journey, which is hero goes and journeys, wins thing, comes back hero. And instead he came back and he was like, I don't know what happened. I won. I don't know what I won. And it could have been better. It could have been better as a lore story. And it is a weird shiny to get in build. Like, they did show us actual things though, pre-Elyria client, which was good. I just didn't, the pictures, the way they display those pictures in the long things, and they've done them before, those long images don't display very well. They're very hard to look at. You have to look at them separately to see anything about them. Also, I would have really liked it if they'd put like a Teresk or like a Kifik in that story instead of a Naren. Naren are so boring in my mind. I want to see a Kipik try and impress a Weird and do all of this like parkour stuff, because Kipiks to me read more like a parkour like tribe
Yes.
than Naren.
Yeah, although I think the Weird are meant to be as well, because that's part of their assassin skills.
Absolutely,
is what we're like. And yeah, Borne just posted current state of the community, and store sales are alarming. I think that in January they only made $9,000, and in February they only got $7,000. To put this in perspective, 2016 and 2017, when hype was really high, they were making $6,800 a day. So they would make they would crowdfund as much in a day as they have, in the entire month of February. So, again, we'll see. If they've hired new people, and I think the average salary we found out was about 130,000 at
That's
the
about right for a developer, yeah. A
yeah,
senior developer.
at the store. They got to put something out quickly in order for us to be able to throw more money at them, in amounts to help sustain them,
To be fair, though,
which,
most of the Kickstarters, when you originally go into a Kickstarter, you don't anticipate continuous funding. So the fact that they have to have continuous funding because their timetable stretched because we did not do appropriate estimates on our timetable. It,
yeah,
it's it was never planned to be funded via continuous funding like this. It was probably planned to get angel investors or a publisher. So it's very much like handout, give me money so I can keep doing this, where I don't think that was the original design. And so they're kind of living hand to mouth right now, more so than that was intended.
yeah, yeah. Well, again, as I said, I'm not trying to falsely hype or something, but I think we get to see something in 30 to 60 days that will kind of like hopefully have us buzzing again. We'll see.
Next
I
time
could
I
be
want to see
obviously mistaken.
Kipix in this lore story. I want a Kipik trying to convince a Yoru that they should run away together. Actually, I'm going to start writing fan fiction about this.
There you go. There you go. Alex, you can actually show the little to wrap this section up. You can show the little forum clip from Lady Grey, and this is actually the bit that I read. I read I tend to read, pretty much most of the threads in the comment, and this one basically summarized how I personally felt about it. And again, I'm not against it. I'm glad that they did lore in the shiny. It just doesn't happen to be my personal thing. And Stormbreaker said, I hate reading lore. Can someone give me a TLDR synopsis of what happened? And Lady Grace summed it up, I think, in a good manner, without having to read through it all. Young Naren wants to impress a weird lass, so he uses skills he learned as a farm kid to take on weird youth in an indoor combat assault training course to try to win her attention. So I'm sure that's kind of like, that assassin thing, right? And she says the screenshots are notable for having what appears to be a cursor in them, an echo of the old dungeon demo, which is what Snipe had shown last year about movement that had that XYZ axis, And she goes on and finishes it by saying the obvious inference is that the test course exists in engine and is playable internally, which, hopefully we get to see that in some better form or fashion than just in stills. And I think that might be one of the things that they're kind of like, got their nose to the grindstone on at the moment.
Actually, now that
So,
I think about it, they in that story describe a yearly event called the Trials that the Weird participate in a specific location, which means they just told us about an in-game dungeon that happens once a week. That opens
hmm,
once a week that you can run your new characters through. That is what SBS just told us, and I just now put that together.
just
So,
very good.
Weird have a racial dungeon that you can run once with your character every like a week. So there you go.
Alrighty.
Racial dungeons confirmed.
So we had, if we go to the community member animal suggestion picture, please, Alex. There was actually a guy that put together a fauna idea. And it kind of like looks like this kind of like prehistoric dodo kind of a thing, and he had a whole write up on it and everything like that. And this was actually, I thought, and kind of like, I think this is great and at the same time sad. Um, but I think this is as good a content as kind of like as we've kind of like seen from the studio in the last couple of months, kind of thing.
You
It
actually
was,
posted this. I thought it was a studio picture, and then I read it, and oh, it's not a studio thing. Okay, no Dodo Rexes in Chronicles of
yeah, the
Elyria.
Dodo Rex would be awesome. There was a second picture that had it kind of like looking a little bit more like a raptor kind of thing, you know. But it's a good thread. If you go to the recent post, you'll be able to see that and everything like that.
Is this
That would
somebody's
be
custom
such a cool.
art?
Yeah, that's and the guy was smart enough. It is somebody's custom art. You would have to go to the thread and see. The guy who made the post gave credits for both of the images to the correct, to the right people. And that bottom one was made by somebody from Deviant Art. It probably shows at the bottom there. It says second image, a credit to Draken Garnett from Deviant Art. So if somebody wanted to see more of their art, they know where to go to look for that. And yes, definitely a scary bird. And somebody said it would be a brilliant Kipik mount kind of thing, especially if those claws could latch on to kind of like iron bark, and they could scale up
I
trees
just
or something like that,
what is that arc dinosaur that can climb vertical surfaces? That's all I'm imagining with like little like the gnome characters on the back, and that's apparently wall dinosaurs confirmed.
Yes. Yep, yep, yep. So kind of like going on to that shiny, why don't we quickly show the couple of images? This is kind of like our meme section right now. If we go back and show those couple of images that we had of the
Oh, the one Bordy did?
no, well, let's do the one first that Caspian did, the images
Ah,
that were in Caspian shiny, just to kind of like have relevance to it. In that shiny that we had about 3-4 weeks ago, this was
this
the
is
image that came out. It wasn't anything new for us. This was the
the
image that came
concept
out
art.
for Kickstarterversary. And then the shiny was about this next piece of art, which is kind of like, the hand sketches of how it might look. And our resident meme master, Borne, put together and generated a couple of memes for it. If you can put the first one of those images up, Alex. That's the COE new shiny. Check out our dragon mood piece. And, unfortunately, obviously, it
Oh,
is. And then if you can do the concept art part for it.
I love the fact that Bordy like put the effort into drawing this. Like it made me so happy that he decided he was gonna draw that. It was gorgeous.
I thought it was rather funny and rather well done.
I, I saw it at work. I
Um,
had to step out because I was laughing so bad at it.
Thank you, Borne.
Yes, continue with the
Um,
memes.
yeah, exactly. There's probably going to be another chainmail bikini for that cannon.
Absolutely. You got to be able to put the chainmail bikini and the sinful delights thing on your animals, obviously.
Yep, yep, yep.
Oh.
Alex, if you can put up the announcement that we made in our Kingdom Discord about New World. I don't know if you have to copy and paste that text, or if you can take an image or just screen share it. I guess maybe. But
Yes.
Borne and Noslim have kind of like taken an initiative while we're waiting for different things. It's like we can't seem to find a game that we all want to play together, and it's becoming kind of like frustrating and everything. And it's like, damn, shit. And so we made an announcement. Oh, what's the date on that? Last Wednesday. So about 6-7 days ago, we made this announcement, and Borne and Noslim are going to be heading up a COE community-wide group for New World, which is Borne. Correct me. When's that meant to be releasing? Is that meant to be April, May, June, somewhere in that time frame?
I think it's May. I really think that it's supposed to come out at May. But I know there've been alpha betas for like the last 2 years or something like that. There's
There's
the Discord.
Yeah, there's the link to the Discord for that. They already have 102 members in there, and we're getting people from different servers and different kingdoms coming in and joining in. And one of the things that was stated in that image is, and no need to put the image back up again, but um, they basically said the backing level you have in COE will not affect your position in this community, as it is an unrelated game, and we ask that people understand that. I think that basically what Muslim and Borne were trying to tell me is that I can be a janitor and and do whatever in that game should I wish to join. It's not my personal cup of tea, so I might be sitting out on that one. Where there's Last Oasis is meant to be
Yeah.
coming out again.
That's
We
next
don't
month.
have an
This
official
month.
group for that one,
That's
but
this month.
that one seems to be, it's kind of like got these big kind of like land walking things, or you can have little individual personalized ones.
It is a very, very cool game for the short period of time I got to be in the beta. It's
Yeah.
very exciting.
Why
I
don't you give us your input on that? And Borne, I don't know if you want to join us on voice here, and if
yeah,
Alex can
Barney.
pipe you in, so you'll be able to talk about New World after Renegade talks about Last Oasis. Go ahead, Renegade.
Last Oasis is a sandbox survival game that is focused more on your transports than your bases. Um, how do I like? I'm trying not to break NDA. It is supposed to come out this month into early access. I know we have several groups within Bordweall that are going to be playing it. Um, it feels very much like Life is Feudal's combat system. It's directional collision based combat. It is very much a survival game. It's very easy to die. I don't know how I would know that, but definitely not. And it is early access, and I do have to stress it's early access. It's not full release coming out this month, but it should be early access to everybody this month.
Yeah, I
Borny, tell me
watched a
about tell me about New World.
yeah, I watched a video on it, and I was like, wow, that actually looks like fun. It was still kind of like a little unpolished in places from the video I looked at, but
Yeah,
it it looked to be just a kind of like a fun kind of like PvP survival game.
it is a very
And
fun PvP survival. There's also
and
a
and
grapple
and when
system
I
in it.
saw that, I was like, wow, that looks cool.
Yeah,
Are we able to, Alex? Are we able to pipe Borne
he's
in
here.
live on voice chat?
He's muted. He's got
He
to
left.
unmute if
Who
he's
is
gonna.
Borne? Yeah, hey.
Tell us about New World.
Oh, so New World is a new game being developed by Amazon Gaming Studios. So it's basically an open world sandbox game. I'm not so sure about the sandbox aspect right now. But it's faction based, so you got the Marauders, Covenant, and Syndicate, who are three different factions vying for conquest of Eternum. I think is how you pronounce it properly. So there's territorial conquest between the factions. So you fight to control settlements and keep forts for your faction, basically. It's run by companies, which is the equivalent of guilds. The PvP system is currently being hashed out by the company. So it used to be open world PvP with full inventory loot or full gear loot as well if you were a criminal. So you kill people for no reason. You could lose all the gear you've equipped. But they changed it from that alpha to this alpha that they're currently doing. So we're still waiting on finding out based on feedback if they're going to turn the full PvP back on. The combat is based off of games like Dark Souls, so it's very fluid and fast, and you can change between weapon really easily, which is really nice.
Is there a magic
So we're just
system?
yeah, there is magic too. Yeah, so it's like fantasy medieval game. It's interesting. We
Building?
got a quite a nice group. Yeah, well, so I'm not in this alpha.
Oh.
I watched people play the last alpha, and there was building in the last one. And obviously this one right now can't really be talked about anyways. It's
Yeah, you
currently
have to be
NDA.
careful about that
So
NDA.
um,
Oh,
so up in the air, I guess, for that right now. But the beta is launching end of April for those who pre-order up until that point. and then the full launch for everyone else is going to be in May. So yeah, like Dee said, we have quite a big group right now coming from Bordweall and other communities. We have like a French community joining us as well. We have people from Vornair and a couple from Elyria as well joining us for the game, and we're about 110 when some of the people that have confirmed joined the Discord by now. It's looking
Awesome
pretty good.
stuff.
Would you compare to
Yeah.
like Gloria Victus's sort of like world capture system? Maybe. Did you
A
play
little,
Gloria
I guess.
Victus?
So the things you can do with the settlements are limited. Like you can set up the taxes and upgrade them, like to an extent. It's not like full on customization, like moving everything around to the finest detail. But you can upgrade and set the taxes and stuff like that for settlement. Like they've released a lot more information than the last week. Even the factions, they just released more information about it. I think it was today or yesterday. So if anyone's interested, they can either jump in that Discord or DM me or Noslim. I don't know if Noslim's busy tonight, or I think he was away for a while, but feel free to message me and I can answer questions or send you the appropriate media links.
Awesome stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
You're
that's
welcome.
I think those are two to keep an eye on, kind of thing. New World and Lost Oasis. Lost Oasis.
Those are the
Or is it
soon
last?
games.
It's
It's Last Oasis, yeah. Those are the
Alright.
soon games.
I'm gonna bounce. Shout out to
Later.
Go
All
Ahead.
right. Thank you, Borne. And so again, just before we close, I know that kind of like, again, people are hibernating and things like that. But Alex, if you can put up the list of our sponsors, and there is a link currently still in the chat channel that I see for our Patron.
Patreon.
We want to thank our sponsors that help make this help make the BBC, excuse me, a possibility. And currently that's still Michael, Kitney, Spellsinger, Melissa, and Countess Gladwin. Thank you to the five of you. And I think we pretty much wrap up our show here. And hope to see you all in 2 weeks' time. And thank you for continuing to view and support the BBC, folks. It means a lot to us. Thank you, everybody.